What's up? It's Marco, Sage of Soccer, and the U.S. under-17 team has qualified for the U17 World Cup with a 5-3 win over Jamaica. Great to see this team advance and get to test themselves against even tougher competition, but they had their toughest test today. It was a 5-3 win over the host, and Guatemala made it very tough. They had a couple of good moments on set pieces, and they're making it a very physical game. This was peak Concacaf action, and it's good to see the young team adjust to it, and I think they responded very well. This is the host team, and if I had to guess throughout this tournament, the U.S. has been playing in front of crowds that maybe reached 100. It was probably near the upper sides of double digits, but today, like over 8,000 people there, probably the most people at a game that any of these guys have ever played with, maybe with the exception of Duran Furry, but they responded pretty well. I mean, some of the players were rattled a little bit, like at the start, but I think they were doing very well. And I think this was a game that really impressed, and a lot of these guys got to share their talents. I think one of the biggest ones was David Vasquez. He set up the first two goals, and just being a left-footed attacker already separates you from the pack a little bit. But he's been very good, showing his technical ability. His touch has been very good. Got a good cross into Romero for the first goal, and did some good work to get the second one for Figueroa's goal. And speaking of him, Figueroa popped up with two goals. He did go off with an injury. I know that he was nursing an injury coming into this tournament, so hopefully he'll be all right, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him off the bench, definitely for the next game, maybe for the final as well. We'll have to see, but I think he's really impressed, and he's probably been the breakout player of this tournament. It's been very tough to see how he's been. I mean, he's only been playing with Liverpool's U18 squad a little bit, so the footage out on him was very limited, but I think he's really impressed and uh, shows a lot of athleticism. His finishing in the box has been very strong, and I'm getting more and more impressed with this hold-up play throughout the tournament. It can be inconsistent at sometimes, but especially with how the field is, it's like very messed up field in Guatemala. Like when you combine that with like the little glimpses of talent that we have seen, I'm feeling pretty good about him. He could be a very good striker in the near future. So excited about Figueroa, and I'm going to continue to sing the praises of Pedro Soma. Just very talented at that defensive midfield position. Very good at working the ball forward, and I think he's a really solid player. Then for the rest of our guys in our attack, Brian Romero picked up the goal this game, and he's a player who I'm kind of going back and forth if I like him or not, because he's been pretty like hit or miss throughout this tournament, but I really like the things that he tries. He had one on our fourth goal where he had a good run and a smart pass to Cruz Medina, and that set up Figueroa's goal, and then he picked up a goal himself. Like he's trying a lot of things, and for the most part, it's not really working out. But I love the mentality that he's bringing to this team, and he's still a very young player. Like the technical development will come, the end product will come, and if he keeps this mentality, I think he could be a very interesting player. So like I'm hesitating to call him like a positive throughout this tournament and in this game really, but I'm liking what I'm seeing ahead for the future. Then we have Cruz Medina, and Medina is actually one of the most interesting parts of this game because it was looking, especially in the first half, like he was playing as an actual 10, which we have not seen with the USA team since Berhalter took over, probably since Christian Pulisic was playing there when he first broke into the team. And he was doing all right, but I think the main thing is that we're actually switching up the formation, playing with the number 10, and maybe we can read into things a little bit too deep and say, okay, well, we're moving away from Berhalter's system. That's very good. And I think this is Medina's preferred position, so it's good to see him there. I think with Medina, whenever he's on the ball, you can see glimpses of talent. He had a very smart play on the fourth goal. Him and Romero did very well to set up Figueroa, and you can see some good moments of him driving the ball forward, but it's just he needs to get more involved, I guess. He needs to make a point to show to the ball, make sure he gets on it because he is very good and we could really use him throughout these games, but he's not getting involved as much as he really could. Then we have Taha Brun, and he's a guy who I've really struggled to get a read on this tournament. The first thing you have to remember is, again, the field isn't that great in Guatemala, so the ball could be bouncing up. And when you're a technical team like we are, it's like harder to really look good when the conditions get bad. Like the conditions on the field, like weather, how good the field is, the wind, like that's a real equalizer. So it can be a bit tough, but he's had some good goal contributions. I'm liking his athleticism. I'm still not sure if I want to put him like in the category of we know how good of a prospect like guys like Medina and Soma are. Like, I think I'm gonna have to try to watch him a lot with Columbus Crew, see him on like a good field, see him when he's the real focal point of a team, and just what it is when a team's built around him. Because there's certainly talent there. I want to get a bit more film on him before I really make some more judgments on him. Then we have the defense, and you can see 5-3 let in 3 goals. I will say one was a pretty weak penalty. Like they weren't even showing the replay. I don't know who did it. I think it might have been Soma, but I really don't know. They were showing Haranki as well. But defensively, it wasn't the best today. I think Hawkins was missed a lot. I think him and Hall would probably be the best starting group. And, it is a bit tough. Also, Akinboni, who's with DC United's first team, he might be starting for them this weekend. He's probably going to be a starter with this team at the U17 World Cup, assuming he's not held back. And we're also missing potentially McFarland, who'd be playing left back, though I have liked Sawyer Guerra's performances this World Cup. Not the best today, but I think he's done pretty solid, especially for a guy who's naturally a right back. But it was just a little bit weak. I think Diaz was one of the guys who was more rattled by how many people were in the crowd. Harangi had a very good goal, but defensively he wasn't doing the best. But again, I really like him in possession of the ball. You can tell that he plays a bit more of a midfielder. That's more of his natural position. He still has some adjusting to do to really become a right back, but you can see the talent in the player. And that's the main thing for him. And defense, like not the best today. Set piece defending especially was really not as good as it could be. But again, when you add like how tall is Akinboni? Like 6'5", 6'6", like he's going to be a big help. Hawkins is going to help them out. So like I'm not exactly concerned about it, in the long term, but in the short term, especially for this tournament, we're really going to have to step up defensively. And then we have Duran Fari in goal, who I continue to be impressed with his ability with his feet, just doing really well playing out the back, especially consider all the laser pointers that were on him. If you're watching the game, you could see they are trying to get in his eyes a lot. I mean, you can't do much about the penalty and set piece goals. Maybe he could take a bit more command of his box. I don't really think you could make that um, accusation. I think his height might not be ideal for a pro goalkeeper, but I think he's doing the best he can. And it's tough to really say who's been our better goalkeeper between him and Bowdry. Furry's definitely better in possession, but neither of them have really been tested with any shots that they should be saving. So it's tough to say. But that's it for the starters. I think off the bench we didn't have too much, but Rudisell came on and got an assist, and he's really been impressing with his technical ability. He should be a starter with this group. And the only other thing I really have to say about this is our center midfielders have really been having a tough time. Our eights, I should say, have been having a tough time really making their stamp on the game, which I feel like is partially the formation being like an eight at like this age where you have so much ground to cover. I think it's a bit tough for them, but when I look at some of the guys we didn't bring, a guy like a Jude Wellings, maybe like a Luis Marino, Bento Estrella, I'd kind of like to get them back into the fold a little bit before the actual U17 World Cup. There's potential that they were actually held back by their clubs, which is a good thing. So I'd like to see some of them integrated into the team a bit before then and give them a try. But yeah, that's all we really have to talk about involved with the game. Good to get qualified for the U17 World Cup. And I'm excited about these teams. We have some players who look like they could be pretty good. Figueroa, Soma, David Vasquez, they're really impressing to me, and some other guys who are showing some talent. And yeah, that's all I'll talk about. See ya.